Things heated up when Moran asked Trump about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland father who Trump deported due to what ICE admitted in court was an administrative error.
Went off the rails when Moran brought up the subject of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the guy from Maryland who was wrongly deported to a prison in El Salvador. Trump is convinced that he is a member of a gang, MS-13.
Democrats went hard to bat for this guy, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, even raising around $265,000 for a man that multiple judges said was an MS-13 gang member, fully deportable. Now, I will be the first to admit, my friends, there was an error in this. He had a withholding of deportation, most of you know. This pertained to a gang in Guatemala called Barrios 18. In order to deport this man, under standard U.S. INA law, he needed an interview with USCIS. That's basically immigration services. He did not get that. However, the argument put forward by the Trump administration is that under the Alien Enemies Act, he is now, as an MS-13 gang member, a terrorist. And for this supersedes any withholding of deportation. More importantly, the withholding is to protect him from perceived threats from Barrios 18. As he is going to prison, he will be safe from this gang. More importantly, El Salvador is largely safe. So this is what we would call legally a harmless error. To be fair, however, I say Trump administration, send down a USCIS rep, fly to El Salvador, talk to him in the prison, and then tell him, you've had your interview, we've rectified the error, we're done. But here's where it gets really funny. You see, look, this guy may have faced an administrative error, or maybe under the AEA, he's able to be deported. Regardless, he's a bad guy. He's accused of human trafficking. He was hanging out with MS-13 gang members when they arrested him. He was identified by other MS-13 gang members as Chele, who was the rank of Chiqueo in MS-13. Now, I'll give you the full context. Chiqueo, as it's described, means he's a probationary member, not a full member. He hangs out with them. He's got the symbols, but he's got to get, you know, we call it in Chicago, you get V'd, okay? You get violated in. He had to get initiated to be a full-fledged member. But this guy was working with that gang. We've now got reports that he beat his ex-wife, or I'm sorry, his current wife, mercilessly. We then heard from her ex-husband that he feared for the lives of his children. They filed these in court. Her ex-husband feared for the life of his children because this man is in a gang. And now we've got more info. The New York Post says Kilmar Abrego Garcia bragged he could kill his wife and get away with it. She claimed in newly unearthed protective order request. That's right, my friends. 2 separate orders of protection she filed for, where she said he mercilessly beat her, leaving her with a black eye. He took her phone away. And now in an earlier report said that he threatened to murder her and said that no one could do anything about it. He was untouchable. This is who Democrats went to bat for. And even to this day, journalists are demanding the return of this man. You see, I'll tell you one of my problems with this perception of rigid, flat law. Now, I understand that people basically say, look, the law is to be equal for everybody. But at a certain point, we as human beings recognize extenuating circumstances, and we recognize evil that needs to be stopped, but we must be reasonable about it. So I understand the challenges of precedent when you allow a government to arrest someone wrongly, or what's called the exclusionary rule, the fruit of the poison tree. But let's talk about the results. In this regard, we are dealing with a circumstance that may be considered fruit of the poison tree, which is this man, Abrego Garcia, did not get his interview, so you can't deport him. Okay, well, they're arguing under the Alien Enemies Act they can. Supreme Court put a stop to that. So then let's just say we know this guy is evil. Or I should say, I believe at this point, we've got a preponderance of evidence that an illegal immigrant is a dangerous, evil person. And I believe that's enough for a deportation. Okay, it's not an American citizen. Due process is different for different circumstances. Now, the challenge is, and I fully recognize this, if we allow a system to violate due process, no matter how small, then it can open the door for everybody to have their rights violated. But at the same time, there have been circumstances where let's just keep it on point. If we were to bring this man back, what would happen? he'd instantly be deported. So we're wasting our time. What's the point of paying money to fly him back on a technicality? How about we have a declaration from Congress and Supreme Court stating as such, in the future, someone who's warranted a USCIS interview gets it. However, this is a harmless error. We want that to be said. Instead, Democrats are demanding this man be returned. A man who threatened to kill his wife. Here's a story from the New York Post. They report, alleged MS-13 member. Now, I'm going to pause right there. They say alleged, and all of the media says alleged. I'm going to stop you. Typically, when a court adjudicates something, we don't call it alleged. We say is. Okay, so when you have an immigration court, arrest reports, the U.S. government, multiple judges saying this guy is corroborated as MS-13, you're okay to say this man is not allegedly. He was found to be. They said he once boasted he could kill his wife and no one could do anything to him. According to a request for a motion for a protective order she filed in 2020. Quote, I also have a recording that he told my ex-mother-in-law that even if he kills me, no one can do anything to him. Jennifer Vasquez-Sura wrote in a document she filed with the District Court of Maryland for Prince George's County on August 3rd, 2020. The newly surfaced document preceded a 2021 protective order request she filed against her husband. In that document, she alleged he had punched, scratched, and grabbed her, with some of the alleged abuse so severe she was left with bruises and was left bleeding. The 2020 request for a protective order details a fight the couple allegedly had, with Sura alleging that Abrego Garcia took her phone and demanded her car keys before flying into a rage when she refused. She said she went upstairs to cook breakfast for the kids, but Abrego Garcia shut off the stove before locking the children in their bedroom, according to the document. Sura claimed she retrieved her phone from the car and called 911, but that Abrego Garcia had locked her out of the house when she tried to go back inside. He eventually let her into the house, and when officers arrived, she said she smashed her phone in front of them. She said he smashed her phone in front of them, the protective order request says. She wrote in the document that incidents like this had been commonplace and that she had photos of bruises he had left on her body. Me and my kids are afraid now. He kicked me, pushed me, slapped me in the face, and threatened me. I'm going to tell you this, all right? Because we got this from the DHS as well. My belief is that MS-13 went to her and said, stop. Why would this guy say I can kill you and no one could touch me? Because he's in a gang. Because he's got connections. He's got buddies. Okay? This woman, in my opinion, went to the police and said, please help me. MS-13 finds out and they warn her. You get him locked up. You get him deported. You put heat on us. You will regret it. I believe this woman was under duress. Now she's raised hundreds of thousands of dollars. Take a look at this. National Day Labor Organization Network organizing a fundraising on behalf of Jennifer Vasquez-Sura. $265,916. I bet you don't get that money. I bet MS-13 gets that money. I bet they're saying, take the money, shut your mouth. Now, to be fair, there is a good argument against this in that these MS-13 gang members don't want any more heat than they already got, which is the point. So they may be backing off saying, lay low right now. The Trump administration is going to come in hard, and you're going to be up against ICE, HSI, the FBI. You don't want that. And that probably is a smart thing to do right now if they want to keep their operations going. DHS.gov. Check this out. DHS reveals second domestic abuse filing filed by Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife. Why are they defending this guy? New York Times. Trump says he could free Abrego Garcia from El Salvador, but he won't. Trump's comments undermined previous statements by his top aides and were a blunt sign of his administration's intention to double down and defy the courts. I remember when Joe Biden defied the Supreme Court several times when they said you can't give student loan forgiveness. And he said, so what? I'll do what I want. I remember when Joe Biden declared a new amendment to the Constitution. Laughably absurd. This idea that Trump is unique, ridiculous. But to all the libertarian friends out there, the ones that are saying we don't want Trump doing as much as Biden did it, I completely agree. Neither do I. But there is a reality and there are pipe dreams. The Democrats are going to lie, cheat, and steal. They're going to defend the worst of the worst. They're going to lock up the American citizen without due process like they did with J6. And they're going to allow criminals into this country. What was that you said, liberals? You want some evidence that J6 had the due process rights violated? How about 40,000 plus, what was it, 40? 41,000 hours of footage from, let me make sure I get the number right. Let's do this. How many hours of footage, capital J6? Because it might be 14,000 hours. And I want to make sure I get the number right because we're trying to be factual here, right? In the J6 cases, here we go. The U.S. House of Representatives made 13,000 hours available, part of an ongoing effort to release 44,000 hours of surveillance video. Do you want to talk about what due process means? Due process means that you are treated fairly under the law as the law prescribes. In the instance of illegal immigration, this means that if you enter illegally, expedited removal is your due process. You are treated fairly under the law. An ICE agent checks your papers. If they can determine that you are not a citizen, send you right back on the spot. Literally, like they take you there and say, get a flight, get them out of here. Expedited removal. If you have a visa and you violate the terms, you may get a hearing. If you're a permanent resident or you have a temporary visa that it's 2 years or so, you can actually go before a judge and it can be more adversarial. That's your due process. The J6ers were denied access to evidence. That is not fairness under the law. In several instances, individuals were held for extended periods of time without trial. In one instance, a man tried to introduce video footage evidence proving he was innocent, and the judge denied it. How about the sentencing of Owen Schroyer on J6? He never went in the building, but because of speech he made after J6 on his show, they used this in his sentencing to put him in prison, and they did. It was brief, but they did. That is not due process. That is a violation of. So Democrats are going to violate your rights, and they demand Trump free a guy we know to be bad. Let me put it this way. They're also lying. Here's what's actually being said. Quote, you could get him back. There's a phone on his desk, Terry Moran said. I could, Mr. Trump replied. Mr. Moran said that Trump could call President Nayib Bukele of El Salvador and get Abrego Garcia back immediately. And if you were the gentleman you say he was, I would do that, Mr. Trump said, but he is not. And if he were the gentleman you say he is, I would do that. Mr. Trump added the government lawyers do not want to help bring back Abrego Garcia to the United States. So let me break down what they're actually saying. Trump isn't saying he could snap his fingers and get the man freed. Let's give you the real context. The argument is that Trump could call El Salvador and negotiate his release. The context here is important. Trump freeing Abrego Garcia means more that he has unilateral authority over a foreign jurisdiction. The reality is Trump would have to make concessions to Nayib Bukele in ways that Nayib would probably welcome and Trump would not. That is to say, Nayib Bukele probably is going to be a good dude and say, okay, Trump, I got you. You tell me you want the guy, I give you the guy. But that puts Trump in a bad leveraged position with El Salvador. Now, it's not the end of the world. I'm not saying it's war or economic strife or anything like this. I'm saying Trump doesn't want to ask for a favor for a guy who threatened to murder his wife and bragged he'd get away with it, or who beat his wife mercilessly and put her children at risk. Trump is saying, I am not going to call El Salvador. Ask them to give a concession so that you can have an MS-13 gang member who beats his wife back in this country, just so that the moment he gets here, he gets turned right back around to El Salvador. Democrats are lying and they're insane. Now, of course, Jimmy Kimmel, here we go. This couldn't look worse, Kimmel says. I'm very appreciative of the psychotic nature of Democrats. He says, to everyone else, this looked like it was created in Microsoft Paint on a Tandy 1000, but to Trump, it was irrefutable evidence. Yeah. Talked about this twice yesterday. Trump appears to have genuinely thought that the image of Abrego Garcia's hand with marijuana smiley, cross, and skull, he thought there was actually an M, an S, a 1, and a 3 tattooed on his hand because someone put on paintbrush those symbols, those letters and numbers to show what those symbols mean. That's fine. Trump made a mistake. Stupid mistake. You are allowed to make fun of him for it. In fact, I hope you do. Are you kidding me, Trump? You saw that and thought it was real? Ha! Oh, wait a minute. Democrats were acting like they thought it was real too. Democrats were acting like the intention of Trump was to pass off a fake image of the tattoo. Now they're acting like they knew the whole time, and everyone did. What is Jimmy Kimmel saying? To everybody, it looked like it was Microsoft Paint. They knew that the intention was to show what the symbols meant. That's what Terry Moran said. Donald Trump made the mistake, and he Bugs Bunnied him. Now, I'm going to be fair. There are people on X that are Trump supporters being like, how do you know what Trump was referring to? Maybe, oh, come on. Trump made a mistake. It's fine. It looks really stupid. He looks really stupid. I don't care. It's called a gaffe. Trump sausaged fingers Kofifi on his phone. I don't care. The guy is not some levitating super genius who never does anything wrong. He just happens to be a pretty dang good president, and he's going to have a lot of mistakes. Some of them are much more serious than thinking an image someone handed to him was real. Again, pretty dumb mistake. But you know what? I don't care. Why? The bigger mistake Trump made probably was firing 59 Tomahawk missiles into Syria. He shouldn't have been doing that. Or how about the commando raids in Yemen and the strikes on Yemen? Now, hold on. That's contested. I get it. But I don't want to be involved in these foreign wars. And I do respect, and I mean this literally, I talked to Seb Gorka and he says, we don't want regime change. We want limited strikes. I can respect that pullback at least, because I'm not a crackpot libertarian who's going to be like all or nothing. I'll say, this is a good start. But I still don't like that we're involved in these foreign conflicts. That being said, I fully expect Trump to make more mistakes and for me to laugh at them. But what the Democrats, the liberals, and Kimmel have shown us is that when Trump held up that image, they knew full well what it was supposed to be, and they lied across the board. And now that Trump is being made to look dumb, they're fully admitting it. These people are unscrupulous. So that being said, Abrego Garcia? Nah, he can't come back. And I don't see anything wrong with it. But hey, this Saturday we'll be debating the issue at the Culture War Live. I hope it works out. It's a pilot episode. We're trying to get the format right. Think Kill Tony meets Jubilee. We want open debate where members of the audience can come and join the debate. And we want it to be a little bit more fun and funny so that it's a bit entertaining, so we can get to these issues in a way that actually attracts new viewers. And we need liberals. We need liberals to come. We want them to join the debate too. Come up and yell at me. But until then, fight for this guy all you want, Democrats. It's embarrassing. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Thank you all so much for hanging out, and we will see you all in the next segment.